Greetings to everyone. Today a very interesting story awaits you. I will not delay you long, but I will only ask for your likes for this video for my efforts. The story begins with the words about Yunchen Poon. When Kangho's world plunged into lawlessness, a boy appeared. This happened when he was 18 years old. Someone says that even the milk on his lips has not dried, and he has already decided to fight with him. Another man says that he is a demon man who kills everything around him. His name is Zhong Salma. He made 12 armed attacks on Samsun Fortress and killed no less than 300 people. He asked if he said everything correctly. The man replied that he now recognized old Cheon Salma. He began to draw his sword. The boy says that in order to bring justice to Kangho, he will have to kill him. The man got angry and asked what he was talking about. He doesn't think with his head at all. And then adds that this is not a boy, he will be able to defeat him with one blow. They started to fight. The boy's sword was very strong, it emitted thousands of lightning bolts. The boy shouted loudly that he would now deliver the strongest lightning strike. He hit the man with all his might. The man suddenly started coughing up blood. He told the boy that he was just a scoundrel. The boy says that when this man is in hell, he should tell the ruler of the kingdom of the dead that he was sent to him by Yunchen Poon of the Yunchen family. Thus, Cheon Salma went down in history as the first person to die at the hands of 18-year-old Yunchen Poon, who appeared in Kangho. After that, the head of the Sa order died at his hands, and one of the 3 great demonic orders of Sinma was also destroyed by his hands. And when he was 55 years old, he, holding the spirit sword in Chan, stood alone against the incredible forces of the thief Cheon Ma's forces that tried to enter his lands. This bloody massacre lasted more than 1 day, and the entire district was littered with the bodies of soldiers, and the head of the Cheon Ma army, named Sa Cheon Yak, was thrown deep into the mountain forests. All civilians, who received the long-awaited peace in one voice, began to respect him. The strongest under heaven, the invincible celestial sword Yunchen Poon. However, suddenly, after about 30 years, he left the Yunchen family and suddenly disappeared without a trace on the way to the Muram Alliance. A certain man stood and thought. He says in his mind that this is some unfamiliar landscape, he is seeing this amazing place for the first time, he did not understand where he got to and where he is now. He continues to say in his mind that some thick white fog seemed to cover his consciousness. He did not understand who he was and why he was here. He did not understand why he could not remember anything in this amazing place. Suddenly a boy came up to him and said in surprise, "Mentor." This boy happily swam up and shouted, "Mentor, hooray!" He was very happy to see his mentor. The boy ran to the mentor and hugged him. He began to question his mentor, where he disappeared for so long. This boy says that he missed him very much, and the man did not understand why this boy called him mentor. He mentally asks if he had students and why he taught them. The boy took the man's hand and called him to quickly follow him. If it started to rain, then they might get soaked to the bone. The man agreed with him and said that they would do so. They entered a house. The man says in his mind that this boy definitely did not live alone. Did this boy live with him? He kept asking himself if he was definitely this little boy's mentor. He thought he definitely wasn't. The boy told the man to sit down. The man agreed and went to sit at the table. The boy filled him with food and brought it to the man. The man says that the smell is simply incredible. The boy says that he prepared the mentor's favorite soup. The man was very surprised. He says in his mind that this is definitely throwing him off track. He is sure that something went wrong, although he does not remember anything at all. If this boy was really his student, he would not feel uncomfortable. He keeps asking himself what if he really is this boy's mentor. He asked the boy if he is really his mentor. The boy replied that he is. He definitely tells him that he is his mentor. The man says that he wants to ask him something. The boy says that he can ask anything, whatever. The man asked the boy to tell him everything he knew about him. That is, everything, right from the very first meeting. The boy began to remember when they first met. He says that they met for the first time about 3 years ago. He remembers how he chopped firewood and was returning home. He first saw it at that performance in the form of a dragon's head. Then the mentor directed his gaze at the boy and carefully examined him, and then asked several questions. And the mentor assessed the body of this boy from different sides and said that someone like him appears once in 100 years, and after that offered to become his student. The man was very surprised by what he heard, and the boy just sat and looked at the mentor. The teacher says that no matter how much time he spends thinking, he still doesn't remember anything. He asked the boy if they started living together since then. The boy said yes, they started living together. The man asked what this boy studied all this time. The boy replied that he had been studying martial arts all this time. The man mentally says that he does not see anything that he should study, but in this case, what has he been doing all these 3 years? He feels no inner energy, complete emptiness. This boy definitely didn't study any martial arts. The man stood up and went to the exit, said that he seems to be not the mentor that this boy is talking about. The boy was surprised by what he heard. He says that this cannot be and asked the mentor to wait a few seconds. The boy took his hand and began to say that he was definitely his student, and this man, his mentor, and this man said that if he learned martial arts from him, even a little, he would definitely feel his inner energy. The man added that there was absolutely no energy in his body. The boy was surprised by what he heard. The boy says that she definitely is an inner energy, like a wild beast that no one has yet tamed. The man was surprised when the boy grabbed his hand tightly. How could this be? It was definitely not there. What kind of power is this? Suddenly the man grabbed the boy's hand. He asked the young man if such energy also existed in reality. His body contains great power, for some reason, internal energy that must be collected in one place and concentrated in the 7 chakras. The man says in his mind that he hasn't been training well all the time, while he was not around. He adds that if his mind was in a normal state, he would be able to teach him properly, but now in this state, he can't even make the right decisions. The man asks the boy for forgiveness for being a bad teacher who almost did something very terrible. The boy jumped on the mentor and began to beg him not to talk like that anymore. Someone asked the head if he wanted to say that the father really did not go to the big mountains. The man replies that the situation looks like this now. The great master Yunchen was supposed to meet his grandfather at the border. However, even when 3 days passed from the day they were supposed to meet, he did not show up. The other man says that he wanted to go and deal with the army leader Cheon Ma. Where could he have gone? The man asked the elder if he would allow him to send the Silver Dragon troops to find out what happened then, and the elder asked him why the Silver Dragon troops. The man tells the elder that these troops are the best if they want to know about everything in secret. The elder answers that it is true. If the world finds out about it, then the members of the bloody orders will start to act. The elder says that then he gives his permission. The man asked someone if they were already there. Translucent troops entered the room. The man says that from now on they must search every corner of the earth, but find the grandfather. The troops told him that the order had been accepted. 10 days have already passed since this man arrived at this house, which is located in the great mountains of Debil. But he says that his head is still a blur. He can't even remember his own name, and he doesn't remember anything about Son at all. He continued to lie on the porch. He mentally remembers that Li Son allegedly said that he was 14 years old. The man adds mentally that of course he is very grateful to him for the fact that he takes such care of his mentor, but he is still not sure that he is his student after all. But most importantly, he was the one who taught this boy such wonderful martial arts. The man asked the boy what kind of martial art it was, and the boy replied that it was the 6-fist technique that his mentor had taught him. The man replies that from this day on he will teach this boy real martial arts. The boy was very happy. The man wondered how he could teach him real martial arts. This man adds that he himself cannot remember any method of martial art. He began to calm himself and say that he should not worry. although his head does not remember anything, but the body must remember everything. He began to recall some techniques. He was the first to mention the six-fist technique. He is mentally glad that he is succeeding. He has not used his powers for so long, but it is so nice. He continued to mention various techniques. Suddenly he punched the wall with his fist. A lot of dust arose and many pieces of wood fell. Pi Boy reached the mentor and began to say that he was 100% the best and strongest warrior in the world, and the mentor replied that he was only praising him for some small thing. The man thought about how to teach Son this. His consciousness still hasn't cleared, so he can't even write something properly. He remembered something, that there is something. A man says in his mind to teach everything the way it should be, then this method will show itself better than all others. It has been known since ancient times that martial arts are best learned in practice. The boy began to repeat this technique, which was shown to him by his mentor. He hit a huge piece of wood. It was a six-fist technique. Suddenly, all the pieces of wood began to pile up. The boy fell to the ground. He says that some kind of energy, completely unknown to him, is pulsating in his body. He did not fully understand what the reason was. Someone began to tell that he met this boy about a year ago. After the disappearance of the mentor, he went to collect medicinal herbs, but suddenly a thunderstorm began, so he had to hide among the stones. Then suddenly a very pleasant aroma wafted from the cave, and at that moment he entered the cave, following this sweet and pleasant smell. In the middle of the cave was a very thorny tree, and on it hung some strange, but very beautiful fruit. The boy says that it must be very tasty. He plucked it and tasted it. However, after he tasted this cream, his whole body was enveloped in heat, and for several days after that, he could not even move, and then he realized that there was something in his body. This boy always came out when he was in danger. Thanks to him, he was able to overcome her 3 times. From that time, the boy understood that those boys are called energy. This plum carries 7 energy flows. The man says that it is possible that energy appears in his body thanks to this plum, because there are so many different amazing things in the world, but neither Son nor the old man could know exactly the essence of this amazing fruit. The amazing spiritual fruit grows in a place completely enveloped in yin energy, and it only bears fruit once every 1,000 years, when it is saturated with the energy of the 5 elements, so it's no wonder they don't know about it. Half a year has already passed since the man was here. He says that if you go down from these hills, you can see a pretty big village 30 minutes from this place, but why isn't anyone looking after Son? He thought that only heartless thieves lived there. Suddenly, something incomprehensible began to happen. A man went down to the village. There were so many people in this village. He walked and looked at everything that was happening around in this strange village. The man thinks to himself that it is very strange that the people of this village do not know who he is, even though he has lost his memory, but according to Son, he should live here for several years. Suddenly several people started asking the man if he was Son's mentor. They say that they haven't seen him in a long time. They ask why he didn't appear for so long. They barely recognized him, so much time has passed. The man says that he would like to learn something from them, but in his mind he thinks that everything is very strange, as if they are hiding something. Suddenly a boy ran to the man and called his mentor. The boy asked the mentor what he was doing here. The mentor replied that he was usually waiting for him. The boy was pleasantly surprised. The men who were standing next to the mentor and the boy began to tell Son to hurry back with the mentor, because it might rain during the day. The boy replied that it is possible, but the sky is very clear, most likely it will not rain. The boy told his mentor to go home already. He began to tell that he got a lot of money for the logs, so he was able to buy pheasant meat. The mentor was happy and said that indeed it was time for her to go back. The men began to discuss that they resembled each other, but this old man was not the same as before. His face and body were exactly the same as that old man confused Son. She adds that it's no wonder that Son doesn't recognize him, for that old man disappeared when he was only 10 years old, and a man so similar comes along that, as soon as they think that Son has been tricked by that old devil, everything inside burns with anger. One man told everyone to listen very carefully. If this old man shows up again, they have to deal with him before Son realizes anything. They say that this old man took all of Son's father's money and ran away. If he shows up, his arms and legs will be broken. It will only be a small punishment. In any case, he seems to have met a good man. What a relief. They agreed not to tell Sauna, because now Sauna is very happy. Therefore, there is no need to tell him that this man is not his real mentor. They did not understand where he had disappeared to. A man tells his uncle that it is time to recall the Silver Dragon troops. If their grandfather decided to hide, then no one in the world will be able to find him. Someone asks the head what he is talking about. Shouldn't we look for grandfather a little more? The head answers that of course they will continue to search secretly, but in any case, there is no gossip yet, so it seems to him that there is nothing wrong happened. The other men agreed with him. The chairman adds that if they continue the investigation, the alliance of Murim and the demonic order may find out that the grandfather has disappeared. One man says that he fully agrees with the head, another man says that then the Silver Dragon regiment must be torn off to begin with. Someone says in their mind that maybe it's a good thing that everything happened like that. The fog in his head still hasn't cleared, but he still begins to remember martial arts little by little. The teacher says that he feels that he can even split the sky in half. He began to mention a few more of his techniques. He swung 2 fingers on his hand. The teacher drew a line along one of the hills. Suddenly, a piece of the hill began to fall. It's a pretty useful thing, he says to himself, but he doesn't know if Son will like it. Suddenly the mentor heard a noise from the village. He did not understand why it was so noisy. He decided to see what was happening there. He quickly ran to this village. The teacher hid behind one of the houses. He looked around the corner. Everyone shouted loudly that the big fireplace was lit. Apparently God was angry with them. Children cried loudly, and adults shouted and did not understand what they should do now. The mentor said to himself that he had better pretend that he was not at fault here. He decided that he had better go back. 2 children fought with wooden sabers. One says that he has a devil's sword in his hands, and the other says that he has a much better sword. He has in his hands the sword of the great Enchan Poon. The teacher was surprised by what he heard. They continued to play. One says, the rain and the wind blew in all directions of the world. The teacher didn't understand what rain and wind in all directions meant. Probably it's the name that speaks, but it's such a simple technique that it's even a shame to consider it a martial art. But if you change it a little, then it can become useful. Maybe it is. From that day on, the mentor began to teach his student a cool swordsmanship technique called rain and wind to all sides of the world. The man tells the boy that this is not rain and wind, but a miserable mist. He must be faster and more agile, and the speed of the sword in the middle has decreased by 3 times. The boy apologized to his mentor. The instructor began to show how this technique should look. He says that the rest repeats everything wonderfully, but why can't he achieve such a simple thing? Because mountains are so easy to cut. The mentor says that if it doesn't work out, they will have to use another method. The boy asked his mentor what this other method is. And the teacher says that the boy needs to face his mentor and try to attack him properly. The boy was very surprised by what he heard. But he agreed with his mentor. They continued their training. The boy continued to train with the mentor. The mentor asks the boy if this is all he is capable of. He suggested that the boy make a little more effort. The boy continued to listen to his mentor and follow all his instructions. The student tried to hit his mentor. The man says in his mind that the boy is trying to hit him on the chin, so he attacks from the bottom up, but such a blow is very easy to dodge. The teacher dodged the boy's blow. Suddenly the boy's fist was near the mentor's face. And he hit the boy on the arm. The man threw him to the ground. The mentor says in his mind that he must have dodged, and he sneaked up from an unexpected side, almost hitting his mentor. The teacher tells the student that it is already better, but if he breathes more evenly and straightens his back, he will be able to move even faster. The mentor tells the boy to attack again. The boy replied that this time he will definitely succeed. The mentor was happy with his persistence. The boy says in his mind that right now is the moment, before the mentor is in position yet. He tried, but nothing happened. The mentor tells him that he sees all his efforts. The mentor moved away from the boy. Suddenly the boy used another technique. The mentor says it's the same 7 move he taught him. It's not bad enough, but his attack is very straightforward. Suddenly, the boy began to use another technique. He stood up. I pushed the boy off the ground and jumped very high above the mentor. The mentor says in his mind that this is a technique of established spiritual strike, but he hasn't taught him this technique yet. But how does he already know such advanced spiritual techniques? The boy almost hit his mentor. The teacher was surprised by his technique. He tells the boy that he is good, his attacks have some effect, if he has hidden powers, to bring them out. The boy agreed with the mentor and told him to be very careful. After the mentor praised Stone, his whole body was filled with strength, and at that moment, one of the energies he couldn't handle suddenly released. The boy says that the energy is moving. In this case he should try, this time he will succeed. He began to use energy beyond his control. The teacher was very surprised by what he saw. He did not understand where this boy learned such a thing. The boy continued to use his technique. He trained his techniques on his mentor. Suddenly, the mentor used his technique against the boy. The boy flew quite far. He hit his head on a rock behind him. Suddenly that stone split in 2. The mentor began to shout loudly that this boy was insolent. He had told him so many times how to control his energy. He wanted to split his mentor's head like a stone. The boy apologized to the mentor, and the mentor says, didn't he tell him to control his emotions? One should never be so excited, even if he is standing between life and death. In any situation, his mind should be cold and his opponents should never can be neglected. Mentor mentally says that it is very good that he has the strongest self-defense energy technique, so he was able to protect himself, but he almost didn't go to the other world. The teacher told the boy that it was time to go back. The boy agreed with him. The mentor again wanted to be alone among the hills and try to remember something. He says that it's been 4 years since he's been living with Son. Suddenly, his student called him. He asked if his mentor was here. The teacher did not understand who it was, and how he knew him. The boy said that he was Son. It seems that his mentor got lost deep in the mountains. The boy tells his mentor that he also sometimes can't find his way back, even though he walks there every day. The mentor replies that it looks like it is, because all the roads in that place look exactly the same. The boy and the mentor started back home. The boy showed in which direction they should go. He told his mentor that he had caught a pheasant, which he loves so much. The mentor was very happy and told the boy that it was very pleasant and wonderful news. One master said that his mentor has not been able to remember him for several years. Maybe he has dementia. The boy thought about these words. Apparently Master Wang was right. His mentor has already started senile dementia. But suddenly he thought that maybe it was not for him. The mentor says that this is quite dangerous, because it is not the first time he has been lost. He adds that this is definitely not like him. Something is definitely wrong with him. 1 year has passed since that moment. The mentor says in his mind that the fog in his head is getting thicker and thicker. He still has a lot to teach this boy, but he doesn't know how much time he has left. Son's mentor climbed a vertical mountain known for its bad reputation and began to stare intently at the round moon that seemed to be sandwiched between the mountains. As soon as he saw him, the fog that had engulfed the old man's mind began to dissipate for a moment and his consciousness became clearer than it had ever been, causing a problem to suddenly arise. Because the memories of Son, with whom he spent not a lot, not a few, but the whole 5 years, disappeared, the mentor laughed loudly and asked what he was doing in such a place. He asks where his battle clothes went and what kind of country hood he is wearing now, what happened to it. He says that he sensed that something unusual was happening in Chun Ma's army. The mentor began to tell that 30 years ago he dealt with them with his own hands, but they began to accumulate strength again, and then the Muram alliance also said that they were planning to do something very suspicious again. For this reason, he had to meet with the head of the union, Muri, and suddenly he comes to his senses in this state. He says that the reason can be found out later, but everyone is 100% worried, so the first thing he should do is go back. The boy loudly called his mentor and asked where he was. The boy searched all the rooms, he even looked under the bed, but the mentor was nowhere to be found. Son, looking for his mentor, searched all the mountains, but he was nowhere to be found. This happened 5 years later, from the moment the mentor appeared in these mountains. The boy brought a killed deer to sell. The man from the shop asks the boy if he still can't find his mentor, and the boy says yes. No matter how hard he looks, he's nowhere to be found. The man from the store reassured the boy. He says that he himself knows that his mentor is not an ordinary old man. When the time comes, when the mentor comes to his senses, he will definitely return. The boy sadly lowered his eyes. Suddenly there was a noise near the store. The boy did not understand what was happening. The 3 men began to say that if he had borrowed the money, isn't it time to return it? The old man tells them that if they give him a month's reprieve, he will return everything with interest, but these men do not like it very much. One of the men says that it is as much as 30 liana of silver, about which a month can go. He asked the old man if he even understood how much interest would be in a month and why he should be in his position. The old man began to beg to be given a month and have mercy on him. He only asks once. The man says that he is talking nonsense. Maybe you should just kill him like a cockroach. He took the old man and put him on his knee and started beating him on the back. He told him to die. The old man's son was calling for help. He was begging for someone to protect his father. Son started to go save the old man, but the man from the shop started to stop him because these guys belong to the Dark Order. If he gets into their argument, they will turn him into a cutlet. Many borrow money from them with interest, so no one can simply take it and stand up for this old man. Another man took a sledgehammer and also went to the old man. He shouted loudly that today this old man will go to the other world. The family of this old man was very worried about him. Suddenly someone from the crowd shouted enough. The family rejoiced when they heard this. It was Son. He shouted from the crowd. He was the only one who could stand up for the old man. The man with the bat asked him who he was, and the old man pleaded with Son to protect his family. Son told the thug to get off the old man. But the thug didn't listen and said that Son was just a young brat, he wouldn't be able to do anything. After these words the man from the Dark Order swung his bat at the boy Son. Son rested his head on his bat. Suddenly Son managed to break this bat and hit one of the thugs. That man from the Dark Order fell to the ground and began to cough. The family of the old man was very surprised by what they saw. They did not understand what had happened. Son let out a breath and thought to himself that his mentor had told him not to use his power lightly. He added that this bandit should be ordered. The man from the Dark Order stood up and said that he must have hit Son in the head, why he was fine. Suddenly, the bandit saw Son's leg already near his face. With one kick, Son hit 3 men from the Dark Order at once. They all fell to the ground and started coughing. Boy Son says that it looks like he overdid it a bit. He didn't even specifically use spiritual energy. The men from the Dark Order didn't understand how this bastard dared to do such a thing, how he even allowed himself to do such a thing. They ordered Son killed. The Son boy just glared at them with eyes full of aggression. Son continued to fight off the 3 men from the Dark Order. They all flew in different directions. They did not understand where such a boy had appeared here in this village on the edge of the world, who he was. Suddenly, one of the men from the Dark Order landed a bag of money at his feet. He was dumped by Son, who told them to take the money and stop abusing the Chu family master again. The man from the Dark Order didn't like it. He asked the Son boy what he was allowing himself, who he was taking him for. But in his mind he said that this package is quite heavy, this money will be enough not only to close his eyes to the debt, but also to drink. The man from the Dark Order told Son that since he had paid the old man's debt today, he would leave him alone today, but if Son came into his sight again, he would break Son's bones. Son looked at them from under his forehead. There was a lot of aggression in his eyes. The men from the Dark Order began to quickly run away and said that they would leave him alone today, but that he would not be so lucky next time. An old man with his family came to Sawan and started thanking him for saving them. He says that he will return the money anyway. Sawan replied that everything is fine, they have already done a lot for him during this time. Son thinks to himself that he's going to leave this place tonight anyway, so he's very happy that he was able to pay it back like this. He adds that he waited a whole year, but the mentor never came back. They had to stick together because he had dementia. He says it's all his fault. He set off and told his mentor not to worry, he was already on his way to find him. Suddenly he stopped. The boy suddenly heard the sounds of fighting deep in the mountains. Who was there? He could not understand. He saw a broken cart there. It seems that it was someone from the security orders. There were a lot of different warriors. Fierce battles were fought there. Suddenly, one of the warriors in black knocked the sword out of another warrior's hands. He started attacking the warrior without a sword. That was pretty low of him. Suddenly someone from the side shouted to them to stop. It was Son. He quickly disbanded all the warriors. Those who were attacked by the masked men were warriors from the Cloud Sky Guard Order. Of course there will always be bandits who want to attack escorts, but this time their number was very different from the usual number. Many soldiers lay on the ground already killed. One of the soldiers was very lucky. He managed to turn away. He rose to his feet and took the sword in his hands. He asked himself if this was the end. Suddenly, something very strange and incomprehensible began to happen. They did not understand who it was, what kind of boy it was. The black masked warriors began attacking Son and telling him not to interfere. But Son just glared at them with eyes full of anger. Son began to use his techniques against them. He hit one man in a black mask and punched him in the face. They began to attack the Son boy from different sides, but the boy deftly fought them off. At one point, all the warriors in black masks fell to the ground. One man from the Cloud Sky Guard Order was very shocked at this speed. The men in black masks continued to attack Son. Son knocked the swords out of several warriors' hands. These two swords, which he knocked out of their hands, he twirled in the air and hit the soldiers in black masks with them. Everyone was very shocked. Son fell to the ground. The men in black masks asked the Son boy who he was, and Son told them that he should ask them the same question. Son asked them what they were doing deep in the mountains with their black masks on. He asked if they were bandits and added if they wanted to continue the fight then let them attack him. They said to themselves that the matter was taking a very strange turn. The other black masked warrior mentally says that he doesn't know where this boy came from, but it seems that if we keep fighting him, nothing good will come of it for sure. They began to run quickly and told the other soldiers to pick up the wounded. The soldiers of the protective order began to rejoice. They rejoiced, hugged, and said that they had survived. One of the leaders of this order started shouting at them what they were doing. Why didn't they start by examining the wounded? Everyone quickly apologized and ran to the wounded. Son asked the main order what kind of people in black masks they were, and the main man from the Cloudy Sky Guard Order replied that he himself did not know who they were, they just blocked their way and attacked them. The head man of the Guard Order thanked Son for helping defeat them and his concern, and Son replied that it was unnecessary, they should always help each other. He introduced himself. He said they were from the Cloud Sky Order. he was the head of the Wang Qian Su order, and asked what the boy's name was. The boy answered that his name is Son Li. He lives in a village that is located in a lowland between the mountains. The head of the order replied that he knows about this village. The head of the order said in his mind that he had never heard that there was such a martial arts master in this village. The head of the order asked Son where he was going, and the boy Son replied that he had left the village to find his mentor. The head of the order said that if he was ever in Manhwa, that he would definitely join their order. He would definitely repay him for his act today. Son replied that if he was there, he would definitely check in on them, but in his mind he said that first he would always have to find his mentor, and then everything else would follow. Boy Son wished the Cloud Sky Order a safe journey, but the head of the order stopped him. The head of the Sky High Order said in his mind that if there was such a master with them, then the escort would be much easier, but it is a pity that it is not possible. Son came to some small village. The boy Son walked up to someone and asked if they happened to see someone who looked like this and showed them a picture of their mentor. The man replied to Son that he thought he had seen a similar man somewhere in Manhwa. The man was surprised and asked Son if he knew about Manhwa, the biggest fortress in their lands. Son was surprised and thought to himself why his mentor had gone there. 3 days passed and Son came to Manhwa. He was surprised by the beauty and the number of people there. He approached a certain woman and showed a painted portrait of the mentor. He asked her if she had seen a person similar to this man. Then he approached another man, but no one wanted to listen to him. The man almost ruined the portrait of the mentor. Son was very worried and said that it was a good thing that nothing was ruined. Suddenly some very strange people came up to him and asked if he was looking for the one whose face was drawn on this sheet. Son replied that it was his mentor and asked if they didn't know where he was now. They said that of course they knew where he was because he was currently staying with them. They offered to show Son where he lived. Son was overjoyed that he would finally meet his beloved mentor. The 3 men smiled, but their smile was very strange. They led the Son boy to some dead end, but there was no one there. Son asked them where his mentor was. One of the men replied that this boy, supposedly, looks normal, but he is a bit stupid. He had to guess everything for a long time. The man swung his fist at Son. Son quickly jumped to the other side and began to ask further where his mentor was. The husband and they were very angry that they did not manage to get the boy the first time. Suddenly they started coughing and screaming in pain. They were all lying on the ground saying what a scoundrel Son was. Son says they tricked him after all. They began to laugh and say who had deceived him and asked him to show them the portrait of his mentor again, maybe they would remember something. Son says he will show them the portrait of his mentor again, so they look very carefully. He showed the mentor's portrait again, and the men started attacking him again. At one point, all these men were sitting on the ground completely beaten, with bruises and bruises. Son told them that now he hoped that they would live a good life. They answered with one voice that it would be so now. They asked him to leave. Son left and started to say in his mind that now it's getting colder and colder every day. He started to worry about his mentor. Son hopes the mentor is okay. Yunshan Family Palace. An old man was standing on the threshold of the palace. The man asked his father if the boy's powers had become more exciting, and the father replied that they were perfect powers to go somewhere and be beaten to death. The man asked his father if no one caught his eye. He replied that everything was wrong. He told so, but did not finish his opinion. The man asked his father what so meant. Maybe he wanted some juice, but the father replied that he didn't want any juice. Father mentally asked himself why he suddenly told so. Maybe they had someone with that name. He can't remember anything at all. The man told the father to go ahead and take their whole family with him. The father asked what the old man could do, who had very little time left. Now they must unite and lead the family. The man thought about his father's words. The father continued to say that before he left, he would leave everything he had obtained and it would be up to them all to deal with it, and in his mind the father said that to obtain or not to obtain, in any case, only heaven can decide that. He continues to say in his mind that these children have only greed in the first place. Whether everything will be calm, he does not even know. Dining room of the Manhwa Palace. The men at one of the tables are discussing that the Order of the Cloudy Sky is doing very well now. One of the men says that Chief Wang has returned from an escort and it looks like he made some incredible deal. Chief Wang's name sounded very familiar to Son. The men continue to say that they are even recruiting warriors to join them now. Another man replies that it looks like they have finally been able to fully spread their wings. The man says that this is the time because after that incident 10 years ago they had so many difficulties. The other man replies that he can also go to them. He asked what it takes and how much money they will pay for it. The other man laughed and asked if he really didn't know what to do. If something went wrong, it was very easy to go to the other world. Sowen started to say in his mind, if the head of the Cloud Sky Order, Wang, is here now, then maybe it's worth going to see him. He remembered his words that he would pay back for today. Maybe he could help him find a mentor. Son came to the order and began to say that the Cloud Sky Order was even bigger than he thought and there were a lot of people there, which surprised Son very much. Someone yelled at Sauna not to stand still like a pillar, but to go and take the line. Son says in his mind to get into the order. It turns out you have to stand in line. Suddenly a man from the order called the next one. It was Son. The man from the order asked what his name was and where he was from. The boy answered that his name was Lee Son. He was from a village in the valley of the Great Debil Mountains. The man from the order asked Son if he was suddenly the boy who was looking for his mentor. It seems he still hasn't found him. Son replied that he was. That's why he came here to ask for his head van for help. The man took Son by the shoulder. The man said that they would let him pass right away. He invited him to go ahead as soon as possible. Head Van was standing on the stage. He said that all the members had been through a lot on the way here. Son quickly recognized the head of the order. The head of the order continued to speak. He introduced himself. His name is Wang Chongsu. He is the head of the Cloud Sky Order. Starting today for 3 days they will be recruiting new recruits. He hopes that most of them will pass this selection. He continued to say that there are 3 obstacles that must be passed. If they know martial arts, then it will not take much effort to pass these tests. He hopes that the results will be very good. The crowd began to discuss what kind of exam this is. They decided to go see it. They say that if they do not hurry, they will have to wait a long time. Son did not understand what exam it was about. Suddenly, someone fell on Son from behind. He came back and asked if everything was okay. Someone started talking, "Let's move already, how can you sit like this on the road?" The girl began to shout at this giant that he was allowing himself. He pushed her. He wondered why he should push her. Why would he do it? The girl said that he was a real scoundrel who first pushed a man who was standing still and now says he didn't. She asked him if he wanted to swim belly up in their river tomorrow. He was surprised by what he heard. He did not understand how a little girl could say this to him, whose lips had not even dried milk. Suddenly, they wanted to start fighting, but Son stopped them. They did not understand who this boy was and why he stopped them. Son told the 2 of them to calm down as there were a lot of warriors looking at them now. A soldier came up to them and asked what kind of argument this was. If they wanted to fly out of there right now, they started saying no, they were fine. They started hugging and saying that they were friends, they were just flirting. The 2 of them began to plead with Son to confirm that they were friends because if they got into trouble they could be kicked out of the exam if he wasn't ready to take on that responsibility. They begged him to say that he was their friend. The warrior from the order asked if the 3 of them were really friends. They did not suit each other at all. Son thinks to himself that the problem is that these 2 might not pass the exam, and if there is a problem, he himself risks getting kicked out. Maybe it's worth playing along with the 2 of them. Son says that everything is true, they are friends, they grew up in the same area. He only begged them to forgive them once. They will not make any more noise. The man from the order agreed, but told him not to make any more noise. They bowed and thanked him. They assured him that this would not happen again. They would behave quietly. The man did not understand who this boy was. He forced his body to bow with one force. The man tells Son that he really has power and he likes it. He introduced himself. His name is Chan Depung, you can call him Depung. The boy replied that his name is Son, Lee Son. The girl also introduced herself. Her name is Chongha. The man asked if it was a female name. The girl answered, everything is correct, she is a girl. The man says that it does not matter if she is a boy or a girl, so that she does not try to stand in his way, and the girl answers what he is talking about. She wanted to punch him in the face. But Son stopped her again. She started yelling at Son and asking who he was that could stop her attacks so easily, and Son replied that there was an order warrior watching them. She began to say in her mind, who is he? He looks very humble, but he stands up to her with such ease. The man laughed that such a small girl even has small fists, and she began to get angry at him again and asked what he was saying. Son says that the exam will start soon. He asked what do they suggest. If they want to be kicked out, they can just not go there, and Depun's husband says that it is not possible. He came here with so much difficulty, and the girl says, so that then this great man will remain after the exam. Son thinks to himself that if they are left alone, they will 100% fight again. Well, even though they are not real, but they are still his first friends, he decided that he will help them until the end of the exam. The essence of the first test is to show the combat techniques learned by the participants. Son and Chan Depung went to the side of hand-to-hand combat, and Chona stood in the middle. Before wielding a weapon, there were more people there. Depun asked Son, he is really very strong, what techniques he knows. Boy Son replied that he knows the technique of 6 fists. Depun thought about it and asked Son about the 6-fist technique. Now he understood why it was so strong. Depun finally understood what Son said. He was very surprised to hear how he could know the 6-fist technique. The other members of the crowd told Depun to keep quiet. They were in the exam. Depun quickly apologized and said he would watch his voice now. Depun asked Son if he only knew the 6-fist technique, or if he knew any other techniques. Didn't he learn anything else? Son replied that he studied not only this technique, but he also learned the technique of wielding the sword, 3 battle blades. Depun was even more shocked when he heard about the technique of wielding the 3 battle blade sword. The crowd was very angry. They already aggressively asked Son and Depun to speak more quietly. Depun started apologizing again and Son apologized as well. They lost control of their voices again. Depun tells Son that he also wants to say that he lost to someone who only knows the 6-fist punch and the 3 battle blades. Son did not understand when it was he who lost. When they fought at all, he does not remember such a thing. Depun says that the only thing more important now is that if he doesn't prove himself, then he might fail the exam, because to become a warrior you need to learn at least several different combat fields, and the 6-fist strike and 3 combat blades are the easiest basic techniques. Son was surprised that the techniques he knew were not enough to pass the exam. Depun began to say that the 6-fist strike as a single combat technique is only used by third-class warriors. Son was very surprised by what he heard. Son began to say in his mind that it was very strange because few people were able to reflect a direct blow from 6 fists, although it could also be because he didn't have a strong opponent. It could be that he was very confident. Depun says that since they are friends, he will try a little for Son, and he just watches. Son agrees with him. Depun went to the test first. He folded his hands in front of the judges. Depun introduced himself to the judges. He says his name is Chan Depun. He knows techniques such as the 30 blows of the cloud fists, the gyulak of the kimgang, and the steel sword technique. The judges were surprised when they heard about the technique of 30 blows of cloud fists, because this technique is widely used only in their order. They did not understand how he could learn about it. Depun began to tell that his father was a warrior of the Cloud Sky Order 20 years ago. His surname was Chan, and his name included the syllables Hyung and Phil. The judges were very shocked. They almost guessed who this young man was. They asked if he happened to be the son of one of the former heads of the order, Jang Hengpyeol. They were happy when they found out whose son it was. One of the judges says he never thought he would see Chairman Chan's son. He asked Dipun how his father was doing. Dipun said he was fine. The judge tells Dipun that they have a lot in common. He asks Dipun how deep he has learned the 30 cloud fists, if he knows the base, if he has already reached the master level. Dipun replies that he has already reached the level of a master of the highest and best level. The judge was surprised by his mark. He asked if it was exactly to the highest and best level. A man came up to the judges and introduced himself. His name is Master Quan. He is in charge of training in the Cloud Sky Order. He asked if Chairman Chan had given them anything, maybe some news. Dipun says that he passed, but first he wants to pass the exam. Mentor Quan tells him that it is absolutely not necessary for him to do it, and if he still wants to do it, he can only show the basic skills. Dipun agreed with the elder. He began to show his techniques. He began to show the basic punching technique of the 30 cloud fists. He was doing very well. The judges and Mentor Quan were very pleasantly surprised. The crowd was even more shocked by the judges and the mentor. Dipun says in his mind that everyone was 100% very surprised. Dipun continued to say in his mind that now everyone knew for sure what a great warrior he was. Teacher Quan tells Dipun that it is immediately obvious who his father is. Very wonderful abilities, he passes 100%, there is no need to look at anything else. Dipun thanked Quan. Dipun gave the mentor a letter from his father and said that it was a recommendation written by his father. However, he came with his friend. The mentor was surprised to hear which friend he was talking about. Mentor Quan says that if he is as strong as him, there is 1 or 2 people he can recommend. Then he quickly agreed and said that the 2 of them go further. Dipun thanked Mentor Quan. Dipun tells Son that he was saying he needed to believe, and suddenly someone called one of them to look the other way. There was a girl with whom they did not get along at the beginning. She asked him to recommend her as well. Dipun laughed and said that he heard a little mouse squealing somewhere, and she was angry with him. Dipun tells Son that it's time for them to move on. Son says that he still wants to see how Chong Hongha does with the exam. Dipun says that he will go first and Son will catch up with him later. Son thinks to herself that it would be nice if Chong did well. Her abilities are basically the same as Dipun, but the question is if she can show them off properly. Dipun was able to pass because of his father, so if Chong Hongha can't pass the exam, she'll have to ask Dipun to arrange for her. Son continued to think, is it possible to show possession of a weapon without a weapon and he doesn't see a weapon anywhere? What would it do in such a case? The judge called the next contestant. Chong Hongha was next. Chong Hongha told one of the judges that she wanted to ask him for a sword because she couldn't prepare hers properly. The judge agreed and showed her where to choose a sword that she likes. She chose the sword she liked best. She started voicing the technique she uses. At first she started to say golden, but suddenly she started to speak for a completely different technique. She spoke for the Silver Dragon's 7 moves technique. She began to perform combat techniques. She drove the saber from side to side. Suddenly, a silhouette of a dragon appeared behind her. The crowd was surprised. They all loved it. They said it looked like a coiled dragon eating its prey. Son thought to himself that she did very well. He thought for a moment that she was even better than Dipun. The judge tells her that she is moving on and asks her if it is true that he heard that she and Jang Dipun are friends. She says that it is 100% true. She pointed at Son and said he was their 3rd friend. Son thought to himself that even fake friends are still friends. The judge told her that she didn't need to show anything else and to just move on. She thanked the judge and walked on. Chong Hongha tells Son that he is standing and counting crows. It is time for her to go. Son did not understand what she was talking about. He asked why he is standing and counting crows. She got angry and asked Son why. He passed. She tells him not to be a pillar. They have to leave quickly, if he doesn't want to get a kick in the ass from her and go look at the fish. Son says to himself that he doesn't know what you can look at the bottom of the river, but it seems that you can't help but listen to her, and he quickly runs after her. In the end, the order selected 36 warriors and 60 swordsmen, and thus new groups were created. Someone began to congratulate all the participants of the exam and say that all these young men are really amazing, if only they passed this difficult exam. Dipun began to say that they should both know that what they had gone through was only due to him. Chong Hongha's girlfriend answered him that it sounded very funny, she didn't pass this exam on her own. They started cursing again, and Son quickly tried to stop them. Son asked them why they were saying something like that to each other. It was very insulting. He personally did not come here to become a true warrior. Daepeng and Chong Hongha were surprised by what they heard. They did not understand how he came here not to become a warrior, but why he came here at all. Son began to tell them that he came to the order because he needed to ask them something. They didn't understand what he was talking about. Dipun asked Son what he wanted to ask, what he meant. Son revealed that he was looking for his mentor. He came to the order to see if he could get any help. Dipung didn't understand which mentor the boy Son was talking about, and Dien Chek Chong Hongha suddenly remembered something. She says that she saw Son in the port when he was walking around with a painted portrait of his mentor and asked everyone if anyone had seen this man. Dipun asked the girl what she meant. She knew Son before. The girl replied, if he is a local, then he should have seen him at least once, and Dipun replied that he is not a local. He came here from Namyang, and he has never heard anything like that. The girl asked Son if his mentor had gone insane and got lost somewhere. Now Son is looking for him. Dipun tells the girl that he thought she was a pretty good girl, and she tells him that she is not at all. Son says that in particular, he heard from people that he might have moved to another area, so Son decided to come here to get help from Wang Chongsu, because he once saved the life of the head of the Cloudy Sky Order, and he said that if help is needed, then for Son to turn to him, he will always help him to find his mentor. Dipun laughed out loud at this situation, and told Son that now he understood exactly what had happened to him. The girl tells Son that she understands what he's thinking, but she doesn't think he fully understands. Son asks her what she's talking about, what she means. The girl continued to say that she didn't know what kind of relationship he had with Wang Cheon-su, but nothing in this world is free, that's for sure. Son asked her, what should be paid for the help? The girl replied to Son that he really has to pay. Wang Chongsu escorts the goods or takes responsibility for the escort. The boy Son has to pay to find someone or buy something and sell information. Son tells her that he doesn't have that much money to pay for the help he received. Dipun says there is only one way, that way is to become a warrior even if he has no money, and the girl asks Dipun what he is talking about. Dipun raised his index finger to the mountain. He told Son again that he could become a warrior. Son asked Dipun, what will happen when a person becomes a warrior? Then he will be tied to the order. How will it help to find his mentor? Dipun answers that the order is an organization that travels around the world and leaves its mark. Dipun went on to say that if Son traveled the world as a warrior, maybe he could find his mentor. Son says that then he will be able to pay off with his work. Daepeng and Chong Hongha smiled and looked at Son. He is so small and funny. Daepeng says that he is capable of many things for his friend, but in this particular case, he is willing to help him in his search for his mentor, and the girl Chong Hongha adds that she will also help the boy with her one hand. The next day, in the morning, someone entered the room and began to say that they had now become a symbol of the order. A certain man scattered and said that they had all worked very well. If there was anything they wanted, they should tell him. The order worker mentally asks what he did to earn Wang Chong-su's respect. Son says that if they are older than him then to address him as his nephew. The man laughs and says that if it's more convenient for him then that's absolutely no problem. If there's something he wants then to simply inform this man about it. Son tells the man that he has only one request of everyone, and that is to help find his mentor. The man began to think about which mentor he was talking about, then remembered that Son had said that he had come down from the mountain to find his mentor. The man says that the order is the fastest and most accurate place to find out all the gossip, probably much better than looking for it alone. Son thanked the man for his help. The man tells Son that he is a little imp, of course he should help in return. If he has the skills, he can become a leader right now, but of course if he wants to. Son was afraid of leadership and said that he will become a simple warrior. He doesn't even want to stand out among others, he wants to be the same as everyone else. The man asks Son if he is 100% sure of his decision. Son replies that his friends are also warriors and they also pass the exams to join the Clouded Sky Order, but if he becomes the leader, it will be very strange and not fair, and he still has a lot to learn to become a real leader. The man says that he understands and asked, then why should he not meet with the head of the order? He would be very grateful to him. Son replies that he doesn't like to stand out, that time he just did what he had to do, it wasn't forced by some people, it was the normal humanity that everyone should have, so no need to be too harsh. The man says in his mind that he would very much like to have such a nephew. Night came, the gift shop of the order. Someone put a cup on the table and with it some water spilled on the table. A man in a shop tells another man that he thinks he definitely has something to tell him. The man began to tell that he had met Son who had helped him a while back when he had been attacked the last time in the Debil Mountains. The man from the shop asked where Son was now. The man says that the boy's name is Lee Soon and he passed the entrance exams today. Then he gave the man from the shop a document with the personal details of those who passed today. The man from the shop began to read very carefully about each future warrior. Suddenly, the man was confused by what he read about the six-party law. He did not understand why it was written there at first. The man began to tell that he probably wanted to stand out among his friends. It seems that he is deliberately trying to hide his skills, but why is he doing all this? The man is modest and asked if he is sure of what he is saying. The man replies that he admires the skill of this boy, because he easily defeated those who were difficult to deal with. The shop man says that anyway, shouldn't Son meet the shop man and thank him? The other man says that he offered him that too, but he refused. He goes on to say that instead he decided to help him find his beloved mentor. The man from the shop says that this is a great idea, and that the other man must help him in his search. And the man adds that the men in black masks who attack them cause a lot of suspicion. It seems that something will have to be done about that as well. The man from the shop says that the case is still under investigation but their identities are not easily revealed. The other man replies that they are not the type to give up just because they failed once, that's what he thinks. This man adds that he would like to deal with all this as soon as possible. The man from the shop says that he completely understands and agrees with him. After this conversation, 10 days passed like crazy, they just flew by unnoticed. Son, who joined the order as a warrior and not as a true leader as suggested by one of the men of the order, had to learn some more things. After work Son, Chan Daepung and Seonga always got along and became closer to each other. Someone suddenly shouted for this pig to eat less. Daepung shouted loudly that she is just a piglet and if she eats so much she will gain muscle mass like him, but now she is just like a match. Chong Hongha tells him that he is just a freak and what if he interesting to learn about the bottom of the Yangtze River, then they will fulfill his wish. Suddenly Son approached them. The girl asked another soldier where he was going, and he answered that he was going to the port to get some fresh air. The girl asks him if he did not hear how she told him to wait. To wait means to prepare for a quick order. He replies that he thought she meant to go get some rest. Chong Hongha says that she is not in the best mood to talk right now. The boy asks what happened, why she is not in the mood. She began to tell that 3 days ago a detachment of soldiers went to Yenyang. Chong Hongha continued to tell the boy that there had been an attack near Suju, probably it was the same robbers again, but with reinforcements. He is probably the only one who does not know about such a serious situation. Now is not the time for leisurely walks. If you have watched up to this point, then I am very grateful to you, because this is where the video ends. If it's not difficult for you, then like this video and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to continue this story, then write in the comments. Thank you all, I love you all.